I don't just straighten my legs to move, I straighten then bend. So this one straightens and then it bends to pull me back. This one straightens and then it bends. You can think of the straightening as like stretching a piece of elastic, which then springs back. So we're using the legs very much as we would the arms. So my arms and hands manipulate my world. They move things around. So I reach out to grab something and then I bring it in. It's exactly the same with the leg. I reach out, that straightens the leg, and then I pull with it like I'm pulling that piece of ground, and that will pull me towards it. We have to retrain ourselves to work the legs like this, because we're normally just pushing with them. Reach and pull, reach and pull. So if I'm reaching out with my hand for something, then my mind is already on the thing that I'm reaching for. And if I'm distracted, then I'm often clumsy and I will miss it slightly and maybe knock it over. It's the same with the legs. So I'm reaching, I really want to feel that piece of ground there that I'm going to pull myself towards. So I want the same sort of tactile awareness with my feet as I have with my hands. Reach and pull. The leg stretches and then it contracts, stretches and contracts. The feeling is that the leg straightens, and as it starts bending, the very beginning of it starts bending, it's as though it's stretching even more into a curve. So it's not just going out and pulling back like this, it's going out and then really opening from here in order to start the coming back. This is the tricky bit, because it has to open up around the sacrum, the sacroiliac and the hip joint. And for them to open up, something in me has to charge up. I have to really mean it. This is what I mean by emotion. I feel some intensity that enables this to come away and become the claw, become the scoop that draws me towards it. And now just into riding horse. So that's really cultivating the feeling of riding horse, because riding horse is this roundness, a real sense that you've expanded from the back, and that is coming around to envelop you in the arms, most obviously, but also with the legs and also with the head here. When you get it right, you just want to be compact. You want to be together and just really body as one unit. You haven't split into a lower body and an upper body. Your Min Meng is really pushing backwards to flatten out your lower spine. And now let's just try a little bit of the, you think of it as the two circle exercise, or Superman bringing his cape around. You're catching something behind yourself and bringing it around. This is opening the back. The more the back opens, the more the front centers withdraw into themselves. So it may look to an observer that you're sort of just losing connection and losing interest because these front centers are almost collapsing in on themselves. But actually, you're opening the back, and the back is much more sensitive and reaches out a lot further. I was seeing a clip on YouTube, I think, of Ian McGilchrist, the psychologist, I think he is. No, maybe he's a doctor, but talking about why we have the two halves of the brain, the left and the right. And he says if you watch an animal feeding, then, like, say, for example, a pigeon, you know, it's feeding, so it needs very good close vision so it can distinguish a grain of food from a particle of sand or muck. And so part of it is really focusing and seeing immense detail. And then every now and then it will just look up and look into the distance to make sure it's not being potentially hunted. So they're two very different parts of the brain. And it's the same here with the part of the brain that we're used to using is the one that gets involved in our immediate world. And that's what we're just closing down here and trying to get this big, much bigger mind that's much more global, opening out. And it's very much like your intuition. And like eyes in the back of your head, you know, when if someone's looking at you, you can often sense it, even though they're behind you. It's just waking up the sensitivity that's out of our range of vision. And realizing that if we want that to wake up and open up, we have to really close down the vision. We have to hood the eyes and almost feel as though you're looking inside with your eyes, so that the eyes in the back of the head, the tentacles, can reach out into the world. And now just looking at the turning. So we've been turning by straightening the back leg and then bending the back leg to pull yourself back to the front, and then straightening the back leg here. And so let's just try that. Straightening the leg and bending the leg. But in order to force the turn, because this is basically what we do when we move from leg to leg like this, but that's moving my center around. When I'm turning, I'm trying not to move the center. I'm trying just to turn around it. So if I straighten this leg, I have to use this leg to stop myself from going into it. So this leg is sort of straightening. It's not really straightening. It's just trying its best not to bend any too much. This is the leg that's doing most of the straightening, and this is having to push back just to keep my dantian in the middle. And then I pull back with this leg, and then this one pushes, and this one has to almost brace me to stop me moving too much in that direction. So just trying to feel, look at it in detail, what's actually happening physically in order to make this turn. So really you're straightening both legs, but they feel so different because this is the front leg straightening and this is the back leg straightening. So I'm straightening both legs effectively, but the back leg is more active, if you like. That's straightening a bit more. And then I'm bending both legs, but especially this one. And then I straighten. And then I bend. So just think in terms of keeping your dantian in place, just turning around it. It's quite difficult. You really need a mirror to help, because often it's difficult to feel whether you're moving or not. The important thing is turning with it. This is what most people don't do. They just move from side to side all the time. We're trying to get a real turn. And just looking at the psychology of turning, you're moving away from something and into something. You're moving out of the old and into the new all the time when you're turning. So psychologically, it's very different than just walking forwards, for example, or you're just moving into what you can see. And so as I turn, it's like, if you're walking and you're trying to be quiet and discreet, so that you don't disturb nature too much, then you've really got to be attentive and quiet. It's the same thing here. I want to turn, and I need what I'm turning into to open up to me. I don't want to just brashly barge around, because then everything will flee. So I'm turning, I'm sinking, and something in me has to be really expectant and optimistic, and just accepting whatever it is that I'm turning into. And so as you turn, effectively you're moving forwards and moving back at the same time. Your back leg is straightening to move you forwards, but your front leg is also straightening, not to move you back, but to stop you moving forwards so aggressively and clumsily. Something is opening. And then I can grab it. And then I've grabbed the thing. So coming back to the front is just retrieving ward off. It's grabbing and pulling in the thing that you've encountered on your turn. Back to riding horse. You just really feel that they call it hugging a tree, don't they? So you've got your arms around this tree, but you've also got your legs around it. And the same here. Yeah, so we're using the eyes not so much to see as to direct the energy. So let's just try just working on the eyes a little bit, bringing the arms out, and then just turn one hand over. So one's looking down, one's looking up, and then just, without moving your head too much, just look down into the hand that's looking up, and then turn the eyes the other side as you turn the hands over. It's basically a figure of 8 in my head, or these tentacles coming out of the back of my head, and my eyes are directing. So my eyes glare to send it out, and then they suck in to bring it back in. So each tentacle comes out of the back of the head and then loops round and comes back into the front forehead. Feel the jaw sort of loosening as well. So yeah, you want to do something with the mouth to help this movement of energy. And just let your head go with it. The head doesn't move as much as the eyes, but just let the head move if it wants to. And now just a little bit similar with for the legs. Just reaching down now. I'm allowing this tentacle to come out of my sacroiliac and drop down the back of the leg. Come under and come back into the Dan Qian. This one's more difficult because, you know, it requires us to sink more. And it's a very different mood, the mood of the Dan Qian connecting to the earth is very different from the mood of your head connecting to the world. Something in me has to be prepared to slip down and go into the ground. And I don't think it's really coming up. It's just the hand has to continue to make a circuit. This is really just taking your energy down into the ground endlessly. But doing that one, it really it does take you down, and there's a sense that something in you just doesn't want to come out of the ground. It doesn't want to come up too much. You just feel it when we get these back centers opened up and involved, then the front ones they just want to close down. Because any activity in these or anything that isn't properly contained will cause the back to retract into itself. And now let's just try the front center and just rolling it. So what we want to do, you know, you can feel energy if you especially if someone else does it, if they're sort of moving their hand sensitively close to your skin sort of tingles, you can feel it. It's the same here. We're rolling this center, and I want to feel it inside. You know, this sort of movement inside my gut, inside my belly, caused by the hands rolling this ball. Activity in the belly, but really contained within the ball. This is the particular, the local. And what's coming out of my back is very much the global. So very much containing this movement. And then just bringing it up to the heart. And again, I want to feel it inside the chest. Now, this one's especially important. Most of us have got hearts that are just a little bit dead. Just trying to bring real movement and just feel it. I say that all the time, but it's just you're allowing yourself to get emotional. You know, if me and John were doing this, literally within minutes, tears would just be streaming down his face. I mean, for him, that's what life was all about. It's all about feeling and being true to that. He used to say that the fundamental problem of Tai Chi is getting your energy out. How do you get your energy out? And if you think about it, it's the fundamental problem of everything, really. So all athletic pursuits, all artistic pursuits, it's all to do with letting what's inside out as purely and as strongly and as clearly as possible. And for that, the imagination is vital. So for me, the imagination is, was an athlete. It's someone like a long jumper. So before that jump, they visualize the perfect jump in their mind. And then their body just conforms to this image that they already have inside. That's what I mean by the imagination. It's the ability to create perfection with the mind that you then use the spirit to try and create it with the body. And that's here. So I see this ball, I see this yin-yang symbol, like two figures of eight gyrating. And I let it possess the heart. So in a sense, feeling is just energy moving. When energy moves in your body, you feel it. And I want the heart especially, but all the centers and the whole body to be just full of movement. And then the head, same thing, just give it a while to establish. And then just back to riding horse. Feel the activity in each of these centers, but it's an activity that's very much enclosed, contained within a ball. Now let's just breathe, something very simple. Think of the spine breathing. My front centers close down, my back centers open, my back centers close down, and my front centers open. The difficulty is this phase. I want to feel this coming in because my legs have pulled me down even more. We want everything to come from the legs. My legs are pulling me down, and that's causing me to almost buckle. And then here the legs straighten, and that allows me to open out. And now just bringing the foot up, so stepping. So remember, I bend the leg, and then I straighten this leg to push myself into this foot so that this foot can come up. When we move the legs in Tai Chi, we want the upper body to be pretty much completely still. So this is still, and then this foot just pops up. My leg straightens to step out. So now my mind is very much with the front of my foot where I'm touching the ground, and that piece of ground I'm going to pull. And now here I'm straightening this leg, but I'm straightening the leg not to reach with the foot, but to push myself into this foot. So reaching with the foot to step, pulling that piece of ground, now straightening this leg in order to drive into this foot. So I'm pushing myself as far this direction as possible, so into my outside edge, and I'm pushing down. The driving down is very important. Without it, there's no root. I'm pushing the leg to push myself down into the ground. And it should really flatten out your lower back. So push the min meng backwards. So my leg, it's as much pushing the min meng back as it is driving me into this foot. Because what I don't want is this split, this lordosis, because that's pushing the heart up too much, and I just lose the root. So I pull, and then this leg pushes me down, and I'm really compact here, like when we pull the knee up, and you can really feel the spine coming under into the leg. This is the feeling of just being really like a ball. you're really encapsulated. So in a sense, you just become all back because your front has just disappeared, has rolled around itself. Pull, push. Extend. This is like a needle that pops out. So it's a moment of attack, a moment of brightness, and then you go back into the dark yielding. And this leg is straightening, but it's not straightening in order to reach out and pierce. It's straightening to get this side of the body yielding even better, even more completely. So I straighten, bend, straighten, but I'm straightening to make this bend completely. So it's just golden rooster stands on one leg in the form. Or perhaps even better, the sweet lotus, where we roll the foot round. Driving myself towards this wall and down. So I'm really in the outside edge of the foot. And that strengthens the arch, which sucks the energy up the inside of the leg from the ground. Pull, push with this leg, drives this outside edge right down. And then this foot is just with the energy that's flowing up the inside of the leg. And now let's just finish. Again, this sense of almost collapsing. Your front centers really feel as though they're collapsing in on themselves. And that's pushing the back centers out into their respective ward-offs or their respective figures of eights that just swarm in like this. So one here, one here. And you can just visualize those, when you're doing anything really, especially when you're meditating. So what it gives us the structure that John was, I think any internal work is into this sense that your front is very contained. It's almost like within each of the centers, there's like a miniature you. They visualize the guru, you visualize the master sitting in your belly, a little model of him, or you visualize the Buddha sitting there, in each of these centers. And you just sink into them. And what that does, it just opens up the back. So as well as visualizing like a small Buddha here, a tiny one, there's a massive one behind you, towering over you. So this is the sense, John called it the iceberg. This sense you've got a tiny bit here, but it really reaches back into a vastness behind you. And that's what this ward-off is doing, this riding horse. Feeling that what John called the guardian, which is just an aspect of your own energy that's just reaching out. It's not contained. It contains you, if anything. So it can just reach anywhere, but it's not from the consciousness. You can't really be conscious in the normal way. You can't see it. You get a feeling that something is happening. Maybe if someone took it away from you, then you'd notice. So it's very much this sort of background activity that we're just trying to foreground. That's how they think of the unconscious now. The unconscious isn't something that's locked away. It's just background and foreground. So the things that are right in the background, we're just trying to slip them forwards. And the obvious things that we don't need to bother with because we're so accustomed to them, we're trying to get those to recede back. And that's basically spiritual work or internal work. And a lot of the things that we're trying to foreground, this is an internal teaching, that it's aspects of the teaching that got embedded in your energy by the teacher. So like memory, so you need to practice in order to retrieve what it is that you learned. It's very much with John's teaching, and all the time, you know, I'm doing the formula, oh, shit, that's what he meant. And then for John, wasn't just, the internal teaching is not just from the teacher, it's also from your ancestry, from your genetics. There's all this information, but it's like it's hidden. It never becomes something that you can tell anyone, but it's there. And then just bringing it up. Now just a little bit of this one. Gyration, this wriggle, this wobble. This is so important. You know, we think, you know, because we're standing and riding horse a lot, it's all about stability and sunk and everything, but it's not really. We're only trying to get that sort of sunk stability so that another part of us can just go crazy. And that's what's happening here. I'm just trying to get complete movement. I'm possessed by this movement, which is threatening to knock me off balance all the time. I'm just trying to get movement in as many planes and directions as possible. And just scanning it, I'm looking, is there a part of my body that's not really involved? Can I get it involved? That's how we use the mind in Tai Chi. We don't think, we equilibrate with it and activate with it. And then slowly winding it down. It never stops. There's a feeling that, oh, somewhere it's just continuing. Even when you know, turn off your computer and go and make your breakfast, it's still going on. There's a sense that this activity can be tapped into, this really delicate internal movement. If you're alive, it's there. Of course, most people aren't. So in a sense, that's where spirit and chi almost become the same thing. It's with this delicate, the butterfly energy, and this ooh. In a sense, that's exactly what chi is, but also it's like these tiny, tiny, delicate sparks of spirit. We normally think of spirit as being really, oh, it's charged up, it's fiery, it's aggressive. But that's what John would call masculine spirit, and feminine spirit is much more sort of pervasive and long-lasting. And all to do with feeling. So in other words, movements in the heart.